Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Speak On It podcast. I am your host, Big Mike. We are back with another special Chalk Talk for our interview series. Got our special guest in here tonight. You know I can't do this alone. We're running a three-man weave. I got to bring in the mad producer, Podcast Poppy, in the building.
No sleep. We just be working every day. We got our 9 to 5s, and then we come here back to work.
Team No Sleep is in the building. Got my man Breezy in the building. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm excited for this one.
Yes, this is a special night. This is going to be a good night. We have our special guest for this interview series edition, assistant coach for Temple University, former head coach of Bowling Green University. My man Mike Huger is in the building. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you guys for having me, man. I'm excited.
So are we. We appreciate it. Quick backstory: me and Mike are cousins. We are cousins. As I tell anyone who will listen, that my cousin is the head basketball coach, and for D1 school, Mike's sister was my godmother. So like we're very close, like as close as it gets. So I appreciate you coming on and doing this for you. We have our questions ready. I'm not going to ask the first question because I know it, but I know the answer. So I'm going to let Dylan hit you with the first question, and we're going to take off.
Yes, sir.
All right, Coach. Who is Michael Huger? What do we need to know about you? What's going on?
Michael Huger, born and raised in Harlem, New York. Went from Foster Projects right there. Played AAU basketball with Riverside Church. Played with Adrian Autry, who's now the head coach at Syracuse. Brian Reese, who won a national championship with North Carolina. We were teammates. Played high school basketball at Stevenson in the Bronx. Won 2 city championships, back-to-back city championships. Was the second team All-City as a player. Played college basketball at Bowling Green State University for Jim Larinaga, who's now the head coach at Miami, Florida. Was fortunate enough to play 12 years professional overseas. Before that, I was runner-up player of the year my senior year, 2 years all-conference. Lost to a guy by the name of Gary Trent. You guys may know his son, Gary Trent Jr. I was highly upset because I was a senior. He was a freshman. But 3 years later, he was like the 13th pick in the NBA draft. So I got over it. It was all right after that. Played 12 years professional overseas. Spent my first year in Finland, 2 years in Holland, 9 years in Belgium. Started coaching in 2005 at Longwood University down in Farmville, Virginia. Spent 2 years down there with head coach Mike Gillian. Spent the next 4 years at George Mason with Coach Larinaga, and then spent 4 years with Coach Larinaga at Miami, Florida, and then was the head coach at Bowling Green the past 8 years, entering my first season here as associate head coach at Temple University. And I'm a husband, father of one, Michael, and a God-fearing man. So I'm a churchgoer, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been a great journey for me.
That is a long laundry list of things that I just gotta keep it sharp. Somebody's gonna ask me who I am, and I just gotta know.
Right, right.
Wow. That's amazing. Gary Trent, huh?
Gary Trent beat me out as a freshman. I thought he was good, but I didn't know he was going to be that good. So, seeing him, I was leaving. I was on my way out when he came in. So I only played against him twice during that time, at home and away. And, he was a good player, strong as a freshman. He was already a big dude as a freshman. His legs was huge. And he, you know who he was a 6'6" Mike Tyson. That's who his body looked like. And
Wow.
he played like Mike Tyson on the court. Boy, he was a killer. And so just seeing him and watching him grow and watching him in the NBA and just what he was able to do, just was so happy for him, and all of the stuff getting to know him over the years. Was a good dude as well.
That's good, man. Now, we kind of jumped towards the college years, but do you remember what started your love for basketball?
My love for basketball. Growing up in Foster Projects, we had one of the best tournaments in New York City. This is before Rutgers. It was called King Towers. And back then, I remember watching the Gauchos play, and they had Pearl Washington on a team, a dude named Beetle Washington, Ed Pickney, Jerry Ice Reynolds. So they had a bunch of guys that was super nice, and just watching
Those are
how they
some
played
names
on the
right there.
court. Oh man, it was Richie Adams. All those dudes is on the same team, and I just remember them play, and they played against Walter Berry, Mark Jackson, and all of them was on the same team. And
Hmm.
it was just watching those dudes play. That's when I fell in love with it. I was around 11 when I first started playing, around 12 years old. And those were the first group of guys I remember watching play. And I watched Chris Mullins and those dudes play. They played with Riverside. Chris Mullins, Kenny Smith, Mark Jackson, all those dudes is on the same team. It was great to watch those dudes play. And I just remember falling in love with it after that.
The name dropping is crazy. The name.
Yeah.
I mean, you went right into it because I was going to ask you, like, so growing up in that era in the 80s New York City ball, where, like you said, it was before Rucker Park, there wasn't social media, anything. You really was living off your rep. And, like, how was that, like, just being in that atmosphere? Because I know that atmosphere must have been, like, crazy to go and just watch these dudes ball. That must have been.
It was so much fun to watch them. For one, they were our older team. So I played with Riverside. I was on the younger team. They were on the older team from us. So we got a chance to watch them practice and go at it and practice. And Riverside, if anybody know Riverside Church, it's a small box gym, super small. And you got all these big dudes in there just playing and dunking on dudes. And, just seeing that everything was word of mouth. So they'll come back and say, yo, did you see such and such at King Towers? Did you see such and such today? And that was the talk throughout school was the whole time. Everything was
Mhm.
about what somebody did, a move that somebody did, yesterday in King Towers. And then we'll go out and practice those moves and everything like that. So, I mean, just the era of basketball was so different. Everything was basically word of mouth. And you see those dudes, when you see Paul Washington riding the King Towers on a motorcycle, and you like, yo, he come in late on a motorcycle and he dropped like 35. You like, what's going on here? I mean, and that was the talk. That was the talk of the town. Like, yo, you see, forget about the game. They was like, yo, you seen that black motorcycle he rode in on and that type of stuff. So, I mean, it was
That was
just,
part of that was
there
part of
you go.
the mystique.
Yep, yep, yep. So it was a great time for basketball. Great. And that's all we did. That's the thing people don't understand. Now I come outside and I see the parks is empty. There's no kids in the parks playing. When we used to come
Mhm.
home from school, we played in boots. We played in Timberland boots, whatever it was. We was out there balling because we knew once we went in the house, we weren't coming back out. So we just stayed
Nope.
right there and balled straight from school. We went in, got, you know what I mean, got it on. Whoever was out there, we just played. But the parks was packed. When I was growing up, parks was packed. It's so empty now. Just watching all the parks are empty.
Yeah, it is.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Because he's right. Even when I
the
when I
parks
was
are
growing up, when I
that.
was playing, we were out there every day, and it's not even that
Mhm.
I'm that far removed. I'm 10 years removed from being out there every day, and now when I drive by where we were playing every day, nobody's there. You'll see one person taking shots. It's like, man, it's not the same anymore.
It's definitely not the
Yeah.
same. But now you know what it is. It's so many. It's a million distractions from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everything that they could be on social media wise, video games. I mean, it's just crazy right now. That's all they do. So that basketball being outside is over. You know, kids are like, man, I ain't playing on the concrete. I need some wood. It's like, come on, man. You only gonna play in the gym. That's it.
Luxury.
You're not
That's a
playing in the
luxury.
concrete no more.
That is a luxury.
It's where it's
It's
honed
crazy.
on the
It's crazy.
concrete.
We
That's
played
where
in
your
Timberland
skills are
boots.
forged.
That's where you learn. That's where
Not
you
in
Yeah,
your
I mean, when I was a kid playing basketball outside, you couldn't necessarily leave the housing project that I lived in. So it was like somebody would have a basketball court in the housing project county in the area. So you would play on that. And like the nearest gym was, for me at least, the nearest gym, it wasn't that far, but it was outside of the boundary that you can go, that your parents will let you go. So you just were like, I'm gonna play ball here, or you're gonna go up the street to your friend's house who got the basketball court in their backyard or something like that. That's the only thing that we had. But when we played, it was nonstop, man. Especially during the summertime when I lived in Connecticut, when Mike would come visit, he'll come visit me, and I wouldn't even come in the house. I'll still be outside playing. I'll be like, yo, I'm outside, bro. You gonna have to come outside because we played basketball until the sun go down.
right, right.
Just nonstop.
So from 1989 to 93, you played your career at Bowling Green. How did you come up with Bowling Green? How did you pick them? And did you have any other offers when it came time for that decision?
I did. I had actually Temple. John Chaney was the head coach here. He told me my job was to get the ball across half court. He had somebody in his office. He said, and my job is to get the ball to this young man here, and tapped him on the back and said, I need to get the hell out of the way and make sure I knock down the open threes in the corner. And that young man was Mark Macon. So he wanted me to play with Mark Macon. And then he told me they practiced at 5:30 in the morning while everybody else was sleeping. They were out getting better. And I was like, 5:30 in the morning, coach. I don't know if I'm ready for that one. So that was something like, I saw Mark Macon years later. I saw him, after his NBA career. And I told him the story. He started laughing. He said, I kind of remember that. So I asked him that. I asked him if he remembered that story, and I said, "Why did y'all practice at 5:30 in the morning?" He said, "The real reason why we practice at 5:30 in the morning is we didn't have any conflicts for the gym." So he was like, nobody else wanted to practice at that time. So I was cracking up laughing when he told me the story. So I had Temple, I had UMass. Calipari was at UMass at the time. Seton Hall had PJ Carlissimo as the head coach, and Providence had Rick Barnes as the head coach. So those were the schools I was interested in. I really wanted to go to South Carolina. That's where my family was from at the time. All my family is down in South Carolina. Mike knows that. And the assistant coach that was recruiting me at South Carolina was Tubby Smith. So Tubby Smith was recruiting me at South Carolina. And then my last one I was interested in was Florida State. But they kept telling me that what's the quarterback name? Ward? Not Ward.
Charlie Ward?
Charlie Ward. They kept telling me Charlie Ward wasn't going to play football. Charlie wasn't going to play basketball. He was only going to play football. And I talked to Charlie. I seen him at camps, and he was like, I'm going to play both sports. So I knew that already. So I was like, everybody kept telling me basically what I wanted to hear. And Coach Larinaga came in at the last minute. He knew my high school coach, Steve Post. He knew my AAU coach, Ernie Lorch. And, they came in and he spoke. And, the one thing coach said to me that, hung true and I used today in recruiting when I was a head coach as well. He said, everything that you get here will be earned, nothing to be given. And when he said that, that was like the first sign of truth to me. And I'm coming out. I'm all city. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, man.
I'm the man.
I'm the man. The ball need to be in my hands. That type of stuff. But he was, when Coach L said that kind of changed things for me. And then I took a visit out to Bowling Green, and just like the country, it was in the country, and I like what he was doing and style of play and everything, and it just fit me. And that's what it was about. I had teammates that went to other schools in the Big East and never played. So it was more like, I want to go somewhere else where I want to play and flourish and, be good and be a part of winning. And that's what I was able to do at Bowling Green. So it was a lot of fun.
Mm. So I
That,
mean,
that
so yeah, I mean, it sounds like you kind of answered our next question. The next question was going to be, what was Coach Jim Larrañaga like during your time at Bowling Green? Was he tough on you? Was he easygoing? Was he an old school coach? What was he like?
because
You know
I want
what?
to throw in because he seems very mild mannered watching him now. So I
He
just want to was he like that back then?
he was starting out his career and he was starting to figure it out. We were Bowling Green when I got there. He was a head coach for I want to say 1 or 2 years before I got to Bowling Green. So he was still trying to figure out his craft, and he yelled a lot more. He screamed, he whistled a lot more. But the one thing I could say, he didn't yell at me. I don't ever really remember him yelling at me as a player. I played extremely hard. I was more like, I ain't going back to Harlem. So it was more like, yeah, I'm going to play hard. I'm going to class. As much as I hate school, I'm going to class. Because it's like, man, you ain't sending me back to Harlem. I got past these classes and all of this stuff. So
Mm.
it was, I know he yelled at me one time as an assistant coach, and that was more than he ever yelled at me as a player. That's what I always told him. I was like, you yelled at me more as an assistant than you did as a player. And he only yelled at me one time as an assistant, and I said he'll never yell at me again. So after that, I was on point. I was on point in everything that I did. But he made me a better coach and everything. But as a player, he allowed me to play. He's like how he is today. He allowed his players to play, and he did the same with me. He allowed me to play, and he asked me things on the court like, "What do you see?" and that type stuff. So a lot of the things that I used in my coaching is the things I got from him. So I definitely have to admit that.
I mean, he's still coaching now, so he clearly he knows what he's talking about.
He's never stopping.
He's
He's
never
never
gonna
gonna
stop.
stop coaching.
He
Man,
has the
73 years
formula.
old and he's going.
He has the formula. He definitely has the formula, and a lot of people need to, emulate that formula that he has, and he's going strong. And he relates better now to the kids than I think he did, even years ago. So he's getting better with age. He's one of the few that gets better with age.
Were you rooting for him in the tournament? I know you were.
I was at the game. I was at the games. I went to the Final Four, and he got me tickets right across from their bench. I was in like row 8, so he got me great seats and all of this stuff. I sat with his wife, Mrs. L. We hung out, and it was just a great environment. And I was definitely pulling for him so hard, just because it was something that we helped build, and that's the thing. When you see that and you see what's going on there, it's like you help build it and help recruit kids to the program. It was just so much fun just to know that we helped start that program, and not in that way, but help get it on that run of what they're doing now with the recruitment and stuff that we did, and the coaching that we did with the guys that we had in the program, and was able to continually get players. And all the assistants that came after us did a great job, and continually doing what we had already done.
Yeah, I found myself rooting for him. They busted my bracket, but I was still rooting for him.
Tell you what, they didn't bust mine. Who won the tournament? This guy. This guy won the tournament.
Dylan did win our bracket challenge, but that's whatever. That's fine. You got it.
That's what you get for talking all that. Smack, you were talking all fucking preseason, man.
Listen, I'm still the college basketball expert here. All right. Still
you came in last place last year. And then you were like, if Anthony just didn't pick Texas A&M, you would have been in last place this year.
There's a lot of parity. There's a lot of parity.
That's what the kids are calling it these days.
A lot of parity, man. It's a lot of parity. Coach, I because I've seen you play, obviously. The one thing I will always know is to never leave you open, because the three stays ready. Did you I know, you're top 10. You're 6th all time at Bowling Green for 3-point percentage. Did you have any particular routine did you have to get up? Were you superstitious like I am? You had to get up a certain amount of shots before the games, or were like you just watching other guys and just saying, "Oh, I see how he's getting around those picks. I'm gonna try and do that." And how'd you always? Because when it went up, it went down.
You know what? The story behind that is when growing up in New York, everyone always said New York City guards can't shoot. We can't shoot. It's the wind that's outside, and the wind make the ball go funny, and all types of crazy stuff. I wanted to be one that can, change that thinking. And so I used to go, across the street from our house in the projects. We ain't had no lights in the schoolyard, so I used to go shoot in the dark, and it just helped me become a really good shooter. Shooting in the dark, I could barely see, but I knew where the basket was, and that's the thing. I didn't have to find the basket, and I thought that helped me as I started to get lights. It's like, oh, this is what the basket looked like. So it was more. it was a thing where I was able to read the defense, and I was always someone that can watch other players and learn from other players, and I'll take things that they would do in the parks and all of this stuff, and I would go practice them at night when I was able to get on the court and be free by myself, where I could think the game and think, if he goes under the screen, I'm gonna shoot this. If he goes over the screen, I'm gonna go downhill. So it was just different things, and I always had an imaginary defender. So whenever I shot, the key for me, I thought, being a really good shooter, was always somebody else on the court. So whenever they actually got on the court, I had already played that in my mind a million times. And I think that all of that stuff helped me become a really good player, because it was always a defender on the court, somebody guarding me, and there's always a situation. I didn't shoot just to shoot. I had a purpose for shooting, and the biggest purpose was to get out of Harlem. And I always said, if I go back to Harlem, it's because I want to go back to Harlem, not because I have to go back. So that was my biggest goal in everything that I did. So shooting wasn't just for me. I was shooting for everybody, for the whole block, for, everything that we touched. And that's just what it was. And that's still how I live life today. Same thing, same concept. If I'm going back to Harlem, it's because I want to go back, and never because I have to go back.
Mm-hmm. Side note, guys, Mike's mom, my aunt, she has lived in the same apartment literally my entire life. So I don't know if she was still there.
That.
I'm gonna say, Mike, I don't know if she was still there when you was growing up, but she's been in
the
that
70s. She moved to that apartment in like 75, and she's been in that building since like 68. She was in that building since 1968.
Same build, same apartment. Like, guys, I'm not joking. Like, my entire life was in that apartment,
and still there, still
there. And she wanted to stay a couple weeks.
You ain't lying.
It is that's amazing. But yeah, I'm with you. I would definitely. We too grown. It's time to move on from get out of Harlem.
Yeah.
I remember when you lived in Harlem, Mike.
Yeah, I lived in the building right across from.
Right.
Okay.
That's the same.
Okay.
Building, is Adrian Autry. Adrian Autry, the head coach of Syracuse, lived in that same building.
That I lived in?
Yes, he lived on the 12th. Adrian lived on the 12th floor. We call him Red. So if I say Red, that's what I'm talking about. Adrian Autry, the new head coach of Syracuse, lived in your building on the 12th floor, I want to say.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was literally right across. Like his building was here. You could walk 2 minutes to the building because she used to pick me up from school. So
yeah.
So yeah.
What's your favorite memory from your time at Bowling Green?
As a coach or as a player?
As a player.
As a player, my biggest memory, I hit a couple game winners. I hit one against Kent State. But my best memory, we beat Michigan State, which is ranked number 5 my sophomore year in college. They came down to Bowling Green, and they had Steve Smith. Steve Smith was on that team.
Smitty.
And Smitty, he was on that team. And Coach L gave me the task of guarding him. And can I curse on your show?
You can.
Absolutely.
Okay, so as I'm guarding him, Coach L tells me to pick him up full court. So I pick him up full court, and as he's bringing the ball up, he like, you can't guard me, you little black motherfucker. And he like, watch this, what I'm gonna do right now. He hit me with that Steve Smith.
The
He hit me with that hezzy in the corner, and he got me for a second. But when he went to shoot, my big man came, and you know how we do in New York, we block it from behind, like that's real hard swing, and I blocked it from behind. And I looked at him. He said, "You still blacking a motherfucker." That's what he said to me. So the whole game, I don't say nothing to him. I hit a deep three at half court on ESPN. So they showed it on ESPN. I hit a deep three at right before the half, 7 seconds left or something like that. And end of the game, we up 12, and I'm holding the ball at the end of the game. So I smile, and I said something to him like, "Look at the score," or something. And he was like, he said, he called me a name. I forget the name he called me. He called me one of the, like, somebody. I wish I could remember the name he said. But I started laughing at the end of the game. I said, "This dude is sick, man. Something's wrong with him." The funny story about that, I'm down at Miami. The Heat is playing I want to say Oklahoma City Thunder in the championship. We all playing pickup ball that evening at Miami's practice facility. So all the ESPN come, everybody come. Steve Smith's come. And he like, "Yo, what's up, Mike?" And I'm like, "Oh shit, I played against this dude one time." And he remembered my name. You know what I mean? And we just started talking. And it was the craziest thing. I stayed in touch with him, called him over the years. And I mean, it's just the craziest thing in the world, man. It was so much fun. No, I had so much fun. That's probably my fondest memory is playing that game right there. And the game winners. I hit a couple game winners. Those were big.
That sounds like
That's
you
a
must
great
have
story.
That's a great story. It sounds like you must have gave him some work because you always remember the guys that punched you.
Yeah. I only had 7, and he had 20 something. He had probably 29 or something like that.
That block haunts him to this day.
Yes.
Remember that block to this
Yes.
day.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, that is a great. Who knew Smitty was a trash talker? I would have never
Oh
thought.
my goodness. He was probably, I was only a sophomore. So I'm 2 years, they 2 years older than me. He was a senior at the time. So he was probably the biggest trash talker because it wasn't just me. He was talking to my teammates too. He wasn't talking just to me. He was talking trash to everybody. But he was also killing. He was backing it up. I swear, I thought he had like 29 against us.
He was a killer in college.
Oh, he was a killer.
Mm-hmm.
He was a killer in college.
Whew. So you played at Bowling Green up until 93, and you decide to go pro overseas. Like 93, that's, I mean, Turku, they've been around since like 1920s, but in 93, that to the American culture, players going overseas, that's like fairly new to us. So what was your experience going over there at that point in time?
Going over to Finland, I knew nothing about Finland. I as my agent, let me give you the backstory on that. In my junior year, we played at Bowling Green. My junior year, we went to the Harlem Basketball Week over in the Netherlands. So we played in a tournament. We were runner up. My Bowling Green team were runner up. We actually was out the tournament. We lost our first 2 games. We got young guys playing against grown men, and we lost our first 2 games. So we were out of the tournament. But one of the teams in, I want to say Greece, was in a war, and they had to leave the tournament at the time. So they had to flip a coin to let one of the 2 lower teams back in. And we won the coin toss. We wound up getting back in the tournament. We wound up going to the championship where we lost in the championship to Australia, who had all grown men. They had a dude that went to the NBA. Shane Hill was his name. He wound up playing in the NBA for a couple years, little Australian guard who could shoot the lights out. They wound up beating us. So that's when I met my agent, Jan Luchtenberg, in Courtside Agency is who I played for. When he told me when I graduated, he called and asked if I was still interested in playing and did I want to play professional. And I'm like, yeah, if they were going to pay me to have fun, something that I'm going to do in the rec anyway, yeah, of course I want to play. So when he said Finland, I knew of Finland, but never knew anything about it. So I started to research it. Turku was the second largest city in Finland. So I went over to Turku, right when the season started. And I remember it being dark the whole time getting over there. This is in September, October. And it's dark. I get off the plane and the sun comes up at 11 a.m. and goes down at 1 p.m. So we had 2 hours of sunlight. So it was like the craziest thing ever. And I'm like, is it like this the whole time? It was like, nah, in the spring, we get a whole bunch of sun. You'll see.
In the spring. What about tomorrow?
we played in a tournament, like I want to say November. We played in a tournament at the closer to the top of Finland called Lapland. So we played in this tournament. It was night the whole time. It was just dark. Like the moon went around a church. I was like, come on, man. The moon went from one side of the church to the other side. And it was dark the whole time. At the end of the year, in probably May or April, late April, we played in that same tournament again, and it's the sunlight. The sun stayed up the whole time. It's the craziest thing you ever gonna see. And it was just so much fun just to be in a different culture and learning a new language. Just was able to adapt to that situation, and it was just a lot of fun just to be out and just meeting new people. The hardest part was all my teammates were older and they were married. And I remember, I'm wondering, like, I watched us play before I actually played my first game. We had actually played a couple games, and I remember watching the team, and I was like, we pretty good. Why are we losing all these games? Until we played, I got on the team, and we were about to play. We go up to Helsinki, which is about 2 hours away. We stop an hour into the trip to eat. So as we're eating, I look back at the older, because I stayed with the younger guys. So I look back at the older guys. They were smoking cigarettes and drinking beers. And I was like, no wonder we losing. We're about to play in 2 hours and you dudes is drinking beers and smoking cigarettes. I was like, no wonder we losing. Now I get it. Now I get it.
Oh, that sounds like the Michael Jordan story from The Last Dance. He was like, all these dudes is just smoking and drinking all the time.
Smoking and drinking. They did it before the game. So that's why I was like, oh, no wonder we're in trouble out here.
Wow. That is wild.
Fun boys.
And they was all married. So that was their fun.
That was their party time.
They didn't care about the game. They was getting a check. They was just there to have a good time.
It was just work. It was just work. You get home after work, crack a beer.
Crack a beer. There you go.
Stick, keep it going.
Jeez. Whew. So how'd you go from there? I think you went to Belgium or Greece.
I went to
first?
Holland. 2 years after I went to Holland, the next two. Same thing, agent got me a job. He was from Holland, from Den Helder. I wound up playing in Horkum, which is a small town. And then I spent my second year in Rotterdam when I won the MVP in Rotterdam. I was Dutch MVP, averaged 25 a game. And I led the league in scoring and assists. And they voted me the MVP that year. So it was a lot of fun. It was a great honor because no guard has won that award. And it was probably like 20 years. And then it was just recently, I got the award in 1994, 95, somewhere around there. And then the next person won the award in 2015, I want to say. The next guard. It's always been big men because of the metrics. So the metrics work, and always the big guys are going to win because of the rebounding. They get so many points for rebounding. So it was always a big guy. So the next guard won it. When I won it in '93, they actually called me and interviewed me about me winning the award back in '95 because the next one won it in 2015. So that was pretty cool.
Mm.
Goodness. Did y'all? Well, how was that season? Did y'all? Is it like
We
playoffs?
lost. Yeah, we lost in semifinals to go to the championships. The year before, we lost in the championship. So I went to the championship and then the semifinals the next year, and then I went to Belgium the following year and played nine seasons in Belgium, and
Yeah.
won the championship once, and then won the Belgium Cup twice. So the Belgium Cup is like where you play teams from Belgium but from all levels. So if we play like a fourth division team, we had to spot them. They got like 40 points, so they were up 40. So basically, they started to score 40 to zip. So it was the craziest thing.
Mm.
So the different leagues. So say we're a first division
Yep.
Belgian team. If we played a team in second division, we had to spot them, say 10 points, and plus we had two Americans. If they had none, they get another 10 points. So that's 20 points to even start the game. You know what I mean? So we down
Wow.
20 to zip to start the game. And they come out, they jacked to play a first division team. So they shooting threes, all this stuff. We was down like, I'm telling you, one time at half, we was down, I think it was like 50 something to like 25. Oh, it was killing us. They increased the lead. So we was in trouble. And then we wound up coming back and winning by like 20. But those games used to be hard. I used to hate those games. But that's how they did the Belgium Cup. And we won the Belgium Cup twice when I played over there. And you get bonus money for winning the cups and all of the stuff in playoff games in each round and the Euro League cups and all this stuff. So, they give you bonus money. So all the incentives was right there. So it was a lot of fun.
Mm.
That's crazy.
I've
Before
never
we move
heard
on
of the
to
spotting points thing.
yeah, no, I've
Yeah.
heard things like that. I haven't actually like heard someone who've played say that, but
Oh,
I always thought it was just rumors.
Nah, it's
It's like yeah,
true.
they played just like Division 3 or whatever it was.
Yep,
We have to
yep.
spot them this many points. No, you
Yep.
didn't. Nope, I'm wrong.
Yep.
Before we move on to your head coach and stuff, who is the best player you ever played against?
Kenny Anderson.
My guy, my guy.
KA
Put
was
some respect on his name.
he was
Mhm.
he was different, and this was high school. So I played against some pros that was really good. Carl Brown was one, a kid out of Detroit. He was good as a pro. I played against Gary Grant, who was he was mean. Gary Grant was nice. I played against him in Europe. So I played against some really good pros, but Kenny was different. He was special. And this is high school now. High school, he just was so much better than the rest of us in high school. And then it showed when he went to college, he was so much better than everybody else in college. He just
Mm.
in the NBA, I don't know if he continued to work like he did or whatever the situation, or I've arrived and everything changed and the money. Who knows? You know what I mean? I thought he should have had a better NBA career. Not saying he didn't have a good one. He had a good career, but I thought he should have had a great NBA career. But he was definitely the toughest. Dude was special.
Yeah, there
Put
was
some
no
respect on my
hesitation.
guy's name.
There was
You heard
no.
him. You heard him, Mike. You heard
He
him. Put
was
some
he
respect on
was
my
the
guy's
truth.
name.
And that's my dude. That's my dude. You know what I mean? We talk and all of the stuff. We still talk on the phone. So he a good dude.
Wow, Kenny Anderson, man.
Oh, he was a beast. Beast.
Nah,
Everything
So-
you hear
I've been
about him
kicking
is
that
true.
Kenny Anderson door down for a while, Coach Mike. I've been kicking
Oh.
that down because I'm a Nets fan,
Oh,
and
he
these
is
guys
the
are over
truth.
here telling me nonsense. I'm like, Kenny Anderson was the man.
Oh, he was definitely the truth. You can't lie about that one. He was the truth.
So fast forward, you retired playing basketball in 2005. How did you make your decision to jump into coaching?
It was actually a long decision. When I was 28, Steve Murfell, who was my assistant coach at Bowling Green, I had Steve Murfell was one, who was the head coach at. He started at Howard University. If you all ever watched the finals when they used to show the guys, it was a little dude that they showed pick. They were picking him up and he was kicking his legs in the air. He was at Howard on that team. He was like a 15 seed that beat the 2 seed Iowa State, and then the next year they beat somebody else. He called me when I was 20, when I was 28 years old. He just got the Howard job. He asked me if I would be interested, what did I want to do when I was done playing. He called and I was like, done playing? I'm never gonna be done playing, coach. I'm gonna play till the wheels fall off. I'm gonna shoot a layup and the leg gonna fall off, and that's the time to quit. So he said, no, but when you done, like, what do you want to do? I was like, I don't know what I want to do. He said, what's your degree? What was your degree? And I said, education. I said, I would want to teach or something like that. I got to be around people. I can't, I can't be in the office, 9 to 5, that type thing. I got to be around people. He was like, so what about coaching? I was like, I don't want to coach. Nah. He said, well, coaching is teaching. Coaching is teaching the game of basketball. And I never looked at coaching that way. I just looked at coaching as coaching. I never thought of it in that regard of, hey, I could teach people the game of basketball. So at 28, he said, well, I'm offering you the job at Hampton University. I thought he offered me like 28,000 to go out there and play or whatever. And I had just signed a 2-year deal to go back to Antwerp. So when he said that, I was like, Coach, I just signed. I'm basically making what you trying to pay me a month. I was like, I'm good. I'm gonna go back overseas, Coach. But around 32, 4 years later, I tried to get into coaching and couldn't get in. Nothing was there. So I went back and played another year. Same thing. The next 3 years, I tried to get into coaching. Nothing came up. I got married to my wife Tanya in 2004, and I tried to get into coaching. Nothing came up. I went back overseas, but she stayed. She had a job here in the States, and I went over by myself, and it was just hard, just being away from my wife, newly married, and I was like, I can't do this no more. So that next summer, Coach Larinaga knew I was trying to get into coaching the summer of 2005. Um, he gave me a call. He said, I got a spot open. He told me about the job, everything. I'm excited. I'm thinking I'm about to go to George Mason. And he's at the end, he said, but I can't hire you. He was like, I need somebody with experience who can recruit the DC area. So, but my respect level went through the roof for Coach L just because of the fact that he called me and knew I was interested in coaching. I had Mark Ivaroni, who was the head coach at Memphis at the time. I had Steve Murfeld, who had now moved on to Evansville, who also called me, but he didn't have anything. And I had Anthony Solomon, who was the head coach at St. Bonaventure at the time. So I had all these coaches, but nobody had a spot for me. About 2 weeks later, Coach L called and he said, hey, one of my former assistants, Mike Gillian, is the head coach at Longwood. Would you be interested? Are you still interested in coaching? And I was like, yeah, coach, I'm definitely interested. So I was living in Buffalo at the time, but I was visiting my family in New York. My wife Tanya and I drove down to Longwood, down in Farmville, Virginia. So it's at the bottom of Virginia by North Carolina. Drove down there, hung out with him for a day. He offered me the job, and I wound up going to Longwood for 19.5. I was definitely making that a month. So I was like, yeah, y'all paying me what I'm making a month. But was able, save my money, was good with my money, and could have done it for free. But it was just the opportunity to get into coaching. What people don't realize is how hard it is to get into coaching and how many, it's just a select few that are coaches. If you look at head coaches, there's only 300 Division I coaches, 360, what, 8 now with all these new teams coming in, 368 Division I head coaches. That's throughout the country. You're talking 400 million people and only 300, 368 dudes is doing what you do and what we had a chance to do, what I had a chance to do. And then you look at the assistants, the same thing. Out of all those people, you only got, that certain amount of assistant coaches as well. So it's a profession that's so hard to get into. So once you get in, you got to stay in. You got to find a way to stay in coaching because once you're out, it's hard to get back in.
I didn't think about it that way, but yeah, absolutely.
You see it. You see it with the NBA. Like you see coaches lose their jobs or get fired or leave a job, and the system just recycles the coaches.
Yep.
You don't really see many people from the outside in.
Right.
Yeah, and it's
Makes
real
sense.
jarring and shocking when it is somebody that comes from the outside in.
Right.
So speaking, because we I know about Coach L. I know the relationship. Like I said, we've been bouncing around with him. How has he impacted you as a coach now instead of a player? And what is something that you've learned from him that you carry over even into your job now?
Um, the one thing I can tell you, as assistants, we all think we know better. No matter what job it is, what profession it is. If you're an assistant, you think you know better than the boss. So you always do. You may not say it, but you think you know things better, and you like, oh, why are we doing this and why are we doing that? So as an assistant, I never questioned anything that he did. I was more, if Coach L said the sky was green, it was my job to convince the players that the sky was green. But then I go to coach and pull him aside and be like, "Yo, coach, man, you know that sky blue. We gotta go and talk to these kids tomorrow. We gotta tell them." But that was my job, and I took pride in doing my job to the best of my ability. But the one thing that we did was we met all the time. Coach L used to meet. Boy, he would talk and we'd meet. We all had to be on the same page. And at the time, it was like, man, why we keep meeting so much? You know what I mean? Like, golly, coach, we only need to meet once. We don't got to meet twice a day. So it was more like that. When I became a head coach, the one thing I did, we met all the time. And as an assistant, I said, if I get a head coaching job, I'm never going to meet this much. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. So all the things that Coach L was preparing us for to become head coaches, and now all three of our guys have been head coaches who I work with. But as Coach L was preparing us for those things, I'm learning everything that he's doing, but not really understanding it at the time until I became a head coach and I met with my guys all the time. So I remember calling Coach L one time when I was at the head coach at Bowling Green and said, I told him the story. I said, Coach, as an assistant, we all think we know better. And I said, I would never meet as much as we did. I said, I meet more than you and I do everything the same way you do. I said, I do things the same way. I mean, exactly. He, what he taught us is how to become head coaches and how to be head coaches and he did a great job. Eric Conkle is started out at Louisiana Tech and now is the head coach at Tulsa. Chris Caputo was with him and now is the head coach at George Washington. I was the head coach at Bowling Green for the past 8 years, and now I'm working for Adam Fisher, who was his assistant as well at Miami as well, and coming from Penn State. So that's the circle. That's the full circle that we have right here with this crew. But just all of the things, the biggest thing I take from him is how he managed people, and that was the thing that you see it and you understand it, but you don't know it until you become a head coach. And
Hmm.
like Coach L knew the janitors' names, you know what I mean? And I did the same. I knew all the janitors' names. I knew the administration, everybody, and he would speak to everyone. And that same with me. I spoke to everyone. Same here at Temple. Speak to everybody. Same. I know I'm just here a month in. I know the security guards. I know the janitors. I know all the little people that you need to know. And that's the thing. People don't understand. It's not the big people that you know, it's the little people that you know. And those are the ones who get things done for you.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like returning to Bowling Green as a head coach?
It was so much fun. I'm not even gonna lie. I had the most fun these past 8 years being the head coach at Bowling Green, my alma mater, and trying to get us back to the NCAA tournament. It was so much fun. It was a great journey. We came close twice, but one COVID hit us. The year 2019, we
Co-
lost in the championship to Buffalo, and then the second year we won the championship and was going into the MAC tournament and COVID hit,
COVID.
and that was our best teams. Those were our
I
two best teams to really push us over the top. That I thought we had a chance to make it to the NCAA
co-
tournament.
I tell everyone that list, I was like, if COVID did, that was the team. The COVID
Yep,
team, that was the team, and I
yep,
knew it, and I felt so bad for you because I knew that was it. I knew
I'm
that you
glad
had
you
it.
felt bad for me because I was crying. I ain't gonna lie, I was done. Like, damn, this was a chance, man.
So side question, I got it because I've never asked you this. How was that conversation like with the players when you had to tell them,
It was the
guys?
hardest conversation I had to make because they were prepared to win the MAC tournament. We were built to win the MAC tournament. We were deep at every position. We were playing well going into that. Going into the tournament, we were playing extremely well. And I had to. We came back after we had our pregame. We had the late game. So I want to say I can't remember who was playing the first game, but we were playing the late game that night. And I remember coming back in right before we were about to leave. We had to meet downstairs, and I had the whole team together, and we explained COVID and tried to explain it as best as we could at the time of knowing what COVID was at the time. We didn't know what it was. We was just like, it's a virus that's going around that everybody's getting sick, and we had to cancel the tournament. It's not just the MAC. It's basically all college basketball. Not Harvard. The Ivy Leagues were the first to cancel. I'll
I
never
think it
forget.
was the
And
Ivy League was
everybody,
first, and y'all were
Ivy
like
Leagues was
right after
first.
that. Yeah.
And everybody was like, man, they crazy. The Ivy League losing their mind. Then when everybody started getting sick and all of the other stuff, that's when everybody thought like, oh, this is for real. This is serious. And then Rudy Gobert touched all of the stuff. And we were playing in Cleveland. The game was at Cleveland, the Cavaliers facility. And maybe like 2 days before, Rudy Gobert touched everything in there. So they were like,
yeah, that's right.
They was like, Rudy Gobert was in here touching stuff. Don't touch nothing. So we was all scared to touch stuff and all of that. But on a serious note, we lost a couple guys. Like I lost two of my AAU teammates. One was Lee Green, who played at St. John's. He was one of the first ones to get it real bad and pass away. And then Dave Edwards out of Queens was another one who played at Jackson High School in Queens. And he lost his life to COVID. The two that I knew, personal friends, they were the first two that I've known that lost their life. I had a couple, other guys, along the way that, I grew up with that passed away from it as well. But those were the first two. And I was definitely shook behind COVID. I never left. I coached in my mask, glasses, and gloves. People was like, man, I didn't know you wear glasses. I was like, I don't. I'm protecting my eyes. I'm like, I don't know how this thing is transmitted. I don't know nothing about it. But I'm protecting myself. So I had a mask, gloves. I wore gloves, a mask, and glasses. So I'll never forget that.
That was a crazy time.
Yes.
Yeah, early on, man. The narratives behind COVID back at that point in time, you just couldn't be too careful, couldn't be too cautious. And it was very little information out on it, so you just didn't know what to do.
Yep.
Yeah, I heard you speak about Buffalo earlier. I live upstate New York right now. Currently, I live in Albany.
Okay.
Can you tell these guys how far Buffalo is from Albany?
It's probably 4 hours.
You live in Canada, James.
You still live in Canada. You still live in Canada. I don't know what you're trying to prove here.
You're our Canadian correspondent.
Like we already know to have the passport ready when we come to visit you. Like,
It is snowing all the time.
It's probably snowing right now.
90 degrees here on Friday. It's gonna be snowing up by you.
Albany only 3 hours from the city, I think. Albany maybe 3
less
hours
than
from the
that.
city.
Less than
Canada.
that. 2 hours.
Canada. That's where he lives. Canada.
These guys.
You gotta be careful. You step outside and you fall 3 deep of snow. You're right there. It's June in 2 hours. Snow.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Foot of snow. That's why you got a hoodie on right now. Freezing over there.
I'm repping. I told you. Coach, so now going from being a head coach, what are you most looking forward to as far as like going into your new role at Temple? What's the differences that you're expecting?
The biggest difference as a head coach, you deal with all the headaches, everything comes to your plate. Everything that go wrong, everything good, everything in between comes to you. You got to deal with so much as a head coach. The one thing I always said to my assistants when I was a head coach is like, listen, when I was an assistant, I made suggestions all day, every day. As a head coach, you make decisions. It's a big difference between suggestions and decisions. My decisions impact everybody's life, no matter how you cut it, whether it's playing time, whether it's not playing, any of the other stuff. I'm the one that has to make that decision. I said, when you make suggestions, it's different. You throw them out there all day. I'm going back to making suggestions, and I'm gonna throw a bunch of suggestions out there, and it's up to him whether he takes them or not. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to not not dealing with all the other stuff for a little bit. Now I want to get back into being a head coach, 100% sure, but just taking that break from all the other stuff that comes along with being a head coach is like relief, relaxing, that you can kind of take a breath and breathe. And I love the fact that I can get back to recruiting. Like, love being on the road, love looking at kids, love scouting talent. As a head coach, you don't do it as much because you got so many other things. So you rely so heavily on your assistants to get the kids and bring them to you. And now I'm just saying, yeah, I like them. No, I don't like them. So that's what I'm doing. So now I'm going back to scouting talent and looking at kids and seeing who I like, and bringing them back to the head coach and him saying, yeah, I love this kid, or no, I don't love this kid. And now it's back to the drawing board. I don't mind either way. If he say I don't like a kid, I just got to work harder to find another one. And that's what I missed, that part of it, because you couldn't do it as much as a head coach.
Now that I think, because we only got a couple questions left, I do have like a double-ended question. I asked you I don't know if you remember. I actually asked you this a couple. When did we see each other? Last week, 2 weeks ago. I asked you if you ever had interest in coaching on the women's side and how that game is different. And then I know I've heard my father ask you a ton of times. Have you ever thought of coaching in the NBA? And has that avenue ever presented itself? Opportunity, I should say.
The NBA, no. And the reason why I never thought about the NBA is just because it's when you have your superstar player making triple your salary, how are you going to tell him, yo, you need to sprint back and play a little harder than what you're doing right now?
Mm-hmm.
All
That's
they going to
exactly
say
what
is,
Deion Sanders is saying. He's like, I can
and,
never coach a millionaire and want to play
and,
Yeah.
hard.
and that's
Yeah.
the thing, because then they going to tell you, all right, this your last game. This your last game coaching me. You could forget about coaching me next year. And so that's why I wouldn't want to be. If you look at it, NBA, Doc Rivers and all of them, they getting fired because of James Harden and those dudes. You know what I mean? Is you don't the NBA coach don't have no power or no say. It's you basically babysitting. You babysitting, and if you can get your team to play hard, you're a genius. But other than that, if you don't have the backing of the front office people, the NBA, you have no chance of coaching in the NBA. So that's the first thing. Women's, I think is for me, I wouldn't mind coaching. The women's game has changed so much. They're playing so much faster and so much more with so much more pace. They can do so many more things. The game has evolved. So I don't think I would mind coaching women's basketball. To be honest with you, I'm the same way. I'm emotional. I cry, you cry, I'm gonna cry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. It's like y'all cry, I'm coming in crying one day. They're like, "Why you crying, Coach?" Nah, it's all right. So I know I can coach. I can coach the women's game, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. I think it'll be a different challenge for me to coach women's basketball, because it's so much stuff you got to still get used to, but the game is still the same. You know what I
Still the
mean? The
same
teaching
game.
of the
Mhm.
game, the fundamentals is the same. Everything else the same, but they're much faster now. The women, the way they play is so much faster than when I grew up and watching women play. The game was so much slower.
Okay, well, that's all I got. I know Dylan got one more question that he
Well,
wanted to
I got a
ask.
couple questions because I love the recruiting aspect of college sports. So, first question is, uh, one, what area are you recruiting? Are you responsible for a specific area of recruiting? And when you're looking at the kids to bring in, is the idea of guys going one and done or going to like higher level schools something you stray away from, or do you still attack them anyway?
No, recruiting has changed. Um, just like now, because everything is NIL driven. So everything is to that regard now. You got kids who averaging, 1 point and 2 rebounds, and they're able to get $80,000. So recruitment is so different now. It's really about the money. So kids don't care where they're going at this stage. They're just trying to get the most money that they can get. And then when they get that money and they're not playing, now they want to transfer. So now you see a million kids in the transfer portal. So
Yeah.
recruiting is not the same as years before, where you can get a kid is coming to your school because they love the school and they love the coach. Those are
Yeah,
two
they
reasons
just
why
want
you
to
go
play.
get a kid. And you just want to play. Now, kids want the money, and then they want to play. And then they want to know about the school. So that the school is the last thing on the list. It ain't the same no more. It's how much money can you pay me? What school is it again? Who's coaching? Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go. And that's how it is. It is not the same. So basketball has totally changed. The recruiting aspect has gone out the window. Is right now is who can pay the most money. And now those are the teams that's gonna get the top kids. We should have tried to put a cap on it, but you can't put a cap on name, image, and likeness. You can't say, Mike, you can make this much money for your name, image, and likeness, but Dylan, you can only make this much money. So that's you can't put a cap on that. So that's the only problem with it. The next thing is educating the kids. Most of these kids don't know, so they getting 100,000. They thinking, yeah, I got 100,000. Till a tax man come the following year, and now they're like, what? Wait a minute. They ain't tell me I had to pay taxes on this money. Yes, you do. So it's our job. Then that fall back on us as coaches, and we have to educate the kids on taxes and how to invest the money and all the other stuff.
Financial
And not
literacy as
buy.
a whole.
There you go. And now instead of buying the latest Jordans and all the other stuff, they know that they can put some money aside for taxes and all the other stuff. So it's just recruiting has changed. It's not the same. I do still enjoy it, getting a chance to talk to kids and, you know, come up with a number and all the other stuff that's so crazy right now. You got to come up with a number before you can even talk to the kid. So you got to do background check and ask his people how much money he want. And they like, yeah, he want this much. You like, all right, we can talk to him. When they say, yeah, he want this much, it's like, all right, forget him. We don't even need to talk to him.
Yeah. And that's a risk, right? Because it's like a risk because you taking somebody else's word for you don't even necessarily know if that's what the kid wants.
That's true.
You can't talk to the kid.
No, we can talk to the kid. We can find out. So you still always do your homework on the kid. So even if someone tells you, yo, he looking for this, you still do your homework and call the kid and, he'll verify it, and say, yeah, that's what we wanted. And, that's what we're looking for. So, it's still the same thing, but, it's whether you can pay that kind of money and all of the stuff that they asking for now.
When you go to scout a kid, do you have to go and tell the coaches that you're going to scout them, or can you just show up like inconspicuous, just like, I'm just chilling in the crowd, just
if they haven't, you do it as a courtesy to let the coaches know that you're coming. It's always a courtesy. You don't have to let them know that you're coming. You could just show up and watch a kid and leave. It's the same thing. So that's not, you just always do it as a courtesy, because if you really like the kid and you told the coach you was there and he sees you and all of the stuff, they help you with a kid. But if you just come unannounced all the time, then they're gonna say like, oh, he never talks to me, and that type stuff. So you gotta kind of build a relationship with the coaches as well, and the people that's around them. Nowadays kids got like 50 handlers, so you gotta meet and talk to like 50 dudes.
That's so
before
crazy.
you actually get to the kid.
That's so crazy.
How many handlers did you have, Mike, when they was recruiting you?
I had no handlers. I had myself. I was the only handler. No, Mr. Lorch played a part in me going to Bowling Green as Mr. Post. So those two played a hand. But that's my high school coach and that's my AAU coach. My parents didn't know. I was the first in my family to go to college. So my mom knew nothing about a scholarship and, what a grant and aid was and none of that stuff. So,
Mhm.
the things that she couldn't help me with, that's where my high school coach and my AAU coach came into play and just helping me understand what a scholarship was, that, I go to school for free. I don't got to pay for nothing. And it's like, nope, you don't have to pay a thing. And now it's like, hey, I'm the first in my family to go to college and graduate from college. So that was huge. And, that's a big thing. And I remember my mom crying at graduation. And I'm like, what you crying for? She was like, you the first one in the family to go to college and graduate. I was like, oh shit, I never even thought about that. Never even crossed my mind. Never even crossed my mind that I was the first in the family to go to college.
Last question from me, at least, is are we going to get the recruiting treatment? And we were not going to ask you for no money, but what about free Temple gear?
I could definitely work on that. I can get y'all some new Temple gear.
They were.
We'll rock it proudly.
They were
Rock it
jealous
proudly.
of my Bowling Green gear. They was definitely questioning
yeah.
me about my Bowling Green gear.
Now that's different because I was the head coach at Bowling Green, so I can go in there and be like, yo, I need this, and this. Thank you, and that was it. At Temple, I got to go to Liz. I got to be like, Miss Liz, can I please get this?
I got a recruiting gig, Miss Liz. I got a recruiting gig.
I don't know, James. Do you have anything else? Because I do have one more question, but I don't know if you have anything else, James.
Well, go ahead, man. Go for it.
This is a sports show, and this is what we do. The finals start tomorrow, Mike. We got to get you on record.
Yeah, what's your pick?
Who's
Denver.
winning these finals? Denver. You got a number of games?
I think Denver gonna win in probably 6. I think it'll go 6. I think Miami will get. I think Denver will get the first 2 at home. I think Miami will get one at Miami. I think Denver. Probably 5. I think 5. 5.
All right.
Join the team, Coach.
I'm gonna stamp
we
that.
got Denver at 5 on this side.
Yeah, I think Denver at 5.
I
just don't think they have an answer for Jokic. I don't think Bam is physical enough for Jokic. And I think if he gets Bam in foul trouble, who they have playing Jokic now. And you can't double him because he's such a good passer. And if those other guys are making shots, it might be a sweep. So it just depends. If them other guys are making shots, it might. And I actually recruited Bruce Brown to Miami. So that was
Bruce Brown's my guy. Bruce Brown's my guy.
Before I left, I recruited Bruce Brown to Miami.
I enjoy Coach Mike. He can come on anytime. He can come on anytime. He just keeps bringing up Nets on here. This is a great time. It used to coach former Net Shane Larkin. Hey, look at that.
Hey,
I did my research. He's attached to Nets. We love this man.
Yeah. It's just, I just don't think they got. I think Jokic is the key, and he's a key that is just hard to stop him, man. That dude is incredible. He is. My players asked me who was the one player that you would pay money to go see, and mine was Jokic. And the reason why I would pay to go see Jokic, just because the things that he does as a 7-footer and the way that he plays, it just look awkward. And you see the stuff that he does, and it's like, how does he get this done? He's slow. He's unathletic. It's like he has all the things that he shouldn't be an NBA player. And yet he's the 2-time MVP.
I still don't know how he made that shot over Anthony Davis in Game 4. I still don't know how that went in. But
all he did was smile. Anthony Davis did was smile.
He could have done anything. He high-fived him at the end of the shot. There's nothing else he could have did.
Just
his passing is incredible. He is definitely the best passing big man since Sabonis. Sabonis was definitely a great passer. But he is definitely a better passer than Sabonis.
I would say, Sabonis. Vlade at the end of his career,
Vlade could pass.
Vlade got good at the end. But I mean, that's all we got. Fun fact, guys. Every time I see Mike, there always seems to be a fight. And every time I see I'm with I see a fight with Mike, something crazy happens. I just want y'all to know this. I was with Mike when Ronda Rousey first lost, which had all of us in the living
Yeah.
room shook because we didn't
Holmes,
know.
I think her name was Holmes. She beat
Yeah,
Holly
the dust
Holly
off her.
Holmes.
She
Head
beat
kick.
the dust off of her.
we watched. I would ask you how you felt about because we watched the Haney Loma fight.
Lomo
And-
won that fight, man. They screwed Lomo big time.
Yeah,
Big time. I feel for him, man, because he won that fight hands down. But they want to see Haney and Shakur Stevenson or Haney and Tank. So that's why they did that.
I agree. I think there was money involved because
Yeah.
it was
Money sing what?
Yeah, big purse fights, man. Those are gonna.
Yep.
They can't mess
And
up
now,
the back.
hold on now. This is the best fight coming up now. We got Crawford and Spence. That's
Coach, you want to be the first one to we want to be the first to make a prediction because we haven't even talked about it on the show yet. You want to throw a name out there?
I'm going Crawford.
Okay.
I think Crawford is the better boxer. Spence is the bigger. The only problem with Crawford, sometimes he like to get in there and show that he tough and try to box with, try to brawl with Spence, and Spence gonna knock him out because he's too big. Spence is huge. But I think if he uses his speed and quickness, he'll beat Spence.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's great breakdown of that fight, and I may or may not agree completely with that.
Who you got?
I am leaning Crawford, but we'll see how it goes when we get closer. But I think you're right. I think that's probably how that fight's gonna go. Actually,
what about the rest of y'all? What you got?
No, I picked Bud.
I got Earl Spence
for those same reasons.
And
same
why you
reasons.
got Spence?
I got Earl Spence winning because I just think that a lot of people are underestimating Errol Spence's him being a technician fighter versus Bud being the more aggressive fighter. And I think that Bud's eagerness to want to knock Errol Spence out and try to make light of Errol Spence because he just thinks he's the overly better fighter than Errol Spence. I think that him underestimating Errol Spence is gonna probably be the problem for him.
I don't think you're accurate in saying he underestimating Earl. I think he wants to fight. I think Earl is underestimating him because he's so much bigger and he's so much stronger and more powerful that I don't think he thinks Bud can't hurt him. And I think that's where the problem's going to come into play at. And I think Bud is more opportunistic, a knockout puncher. You know what I mean? Like if he gets you in trouble, then he goes for the kill. He don't try to one punch you. He throws combinations to get to you. Now Spence does a great job of boxing as well. Spence is a tactician now. It's going to be a great fight, but I just think that speed. I think that speed going to catch. That speed that Buzz has is going to catch him at the end.
It's going to be a great fight. I can't wait.
Yeah, for sure. You know the date? Do y'all know the date?
Isn't it
y'all terrible.
Yeah.
Y'all
June
terrible.
29th.
I know the date. It's July 29th. So
July
29th. July 29th.
So here's my problem with that date. I have tickets to see Beyonce that night at MetLife Stadium, and
you would not be watching that fight, buddy.
It is nightmare.
You'd be the only person at the Beyonce fight trying to watch. It'd be the Beyonce concert trying to watch the fight on your phone.
Yeah.
I am going to have to figure something out because I don't know how this is gonna work. I don't know.
Your girl's gonna smack your phone out of your hand.
I'm gonna be the only one on my phone while Beyonce is up dancing on my phone.
Like somebody tell Beyonce to just stop for like 2 minutes. I need to
y'all making so much noise. Just be quiet.
y'all are disrespectful.
Hey, don't let her get up there and talk about all the single ladies.
Cass gonna leave you right there. She's like, "See, Mike, you watch the fight. I'm going over this way.
You take the fight.
Yep, you're gonna hear that.
You can walk home.
The whole way home. I'm gonna have to hear that.
While we was at Beyonce.
Mm-hmm.
You really couldn't put your phone down for 5 minutes, Mike? That fight was that important?
It is.
You're just like,
It
yes.
You
is.
gonna hear it.
It is.
You gonna hear it.
Oh, thank you, Coach. We are all set. At the end, we like to give our guests a spotlight to plug. Anything you want to plug, throw the socials, whatever you want. You can say whatever you want in this last segment. The floor is yours.
Oh, the biggest thing I want to say, thank you guys for having me. I really enjoyed, coming out and spending time with you guys. Temple basketball back on the rise. We're going to do big things. So want you guys to follow us and, do a great job. If you ever in Philly, come by and check us out. Come by, see a game, come to practice. Any chance you get, come support Temple basketball. Thank you.
Oh, don't worry. We will keep you to that. We will keep you to that. And before I go, let me just make sure that we get this out the way. Make sure that you hit that like, share, subscribe button, hit that notification for us. We are on all the social platforms, wherever you get your podcasts, we are there. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Twitch, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. We're on all of it. And thank you again, Coach, for doing this for us. I appreciate it so much. And from us to you at home, we will say good night.
Thank you again, Coach.
See ya.
Coming on, Coach.